King Harris. King Harris is the 18-year-old son of the world-famous rapper, actor, entrepreneur, activist T.I. Shout out to Tip. I am not going to jump out the window on this thing because the details on what legal issues the young King Harris had that caused him to have some contact or interactions with law enforcement, I don't know. And again, we've been pretty consistent on this platform. I do believe in America where you are innocent till proven guilty. So he ain't yet been proved guilty or nothing.
There you
so
go.
I'm not going to be the one to do no bashing on that. I was just looking on the internet though, and the lead story on Google was King Harris says he wasn't trying to be a gangster, because the immediate media response and the quote unquote black internet's response was, look at T.I.'s son trying to be hard.
Right.
So it led to conversation that we had. You know, now T.I. his father is a very wealthy man.
Affluent. Yes.
Affluent by any standard.
By any standard.
By any standard, right? So the question then led to if, and I'm not saying that the young homie King Harris is trying to be any of the above, but I'm not going to be naive like there is not a thing in our community where some of our youth feel that these attributes, being hard, really looking to find out exactly what that's supposed to mean. Being real and keeping it real. So you tell me what you think when we hear people talk about they keeping it real. What that mean?
Keeping it real is to stay not necessarily hard, but to keep that edge, to keep an edge, to be real, or to I mean, you know, it's such a loose term. It's a loaded term, really.
It is a loaded term. A term though that I listen to and check out all the other brothers out there doing their thing with their pods, with their YouTube stations, and obviously I listen. I watch.
So relative, yeah.
I hear people, in particular, a lot of times, supposedly high-profile people, and they'll be like, "He's a real nigga."
Yeah.
Being that I'm a real nigga, I behave like this, I behave like that.
Right.
I've had people come up to me in public and be like, after we got to interact, and they be like, "I knew you was just a real nigga."
Right.
And they're saying it as a term of endearment, and I actually take it as a term
of endearment.
But then I'd be like, what is it that I did or observed, or what is it that people do to make you a quote unquote real nigga? And more to this question with the young homie King Harris, T.I.'s son, is part of being real me being associated with violence, gangsterism, hustling? And I think, to a certain extent, to be just honest, family, some of that okay. I think back in the day, the quote unquote, there was a thing that people used to use terms like Uncle Tom or Oreo.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that was describing an African American who preferred quote unquote white culture over their own culture. Tried to talk a particular kind of way just because they thought it made them more acceptable to the quote unquote dominant culture, right?
Right.
My whole life people told me that I talk like I'm a white boy.
Yeah. I've heard it too.
Right, okay. Well, then my response has always been, I don't think white people have a monopoly on having command of the
Queens.
Command of the English language, right?
Right.
And if I speak like I'm a product of very good education, then that is accurate. Mama, pops and moms and them definitely did what they did to put me in a position to go to good schools, which I went to, right? Now that said, the way I talk, and I know a lot of stuff I gotta pass on because a lot of quote unquote street cred and things I gotta pass because of who my daddy was. So I never necessarily had to really, people just took for granted he know what time it is because look at the house he grew up in, which was relatively accurate, right? I mean, a lot of quote unquote street shit. I mean, forget about it. Of course, I'm gonna know more about it than you can talk all the slick gangster shit in the world, but you ain't seen or done what we saw and what we did. I mean, you know, I was joking the Hova line. You know, it's a few that know when Hova say, "I've been in the car with so much shit that if the cops pulled us over, the dog would get sick."
Right.
Yeah, I've been in the car with so much shit that if the cops pulled us over, the dog would get sick. Well, those of us who done that a lot know what Hov was talking about.
Big time.
Problem is, you ain't got to be real to do that shit. Well, I don't think that made us real. That made us criminals, hoodlums. But that ain't what really made us real or not.
Yeah.
Or they didn't make us real Negroes.
Yeah, exactly.
That didn't qualify us one way or the other to be a part of the African American community. You ain't got to be involved in that kind of activity to be a full-fledged member or full-fledged male due to respect of a full-fledged black man in America. You ain't got to be in the whip with 20 bricks.
Right.
You ain't got to live like that just to be, you should not have to live like that just to get the full respect of being a male in our community.
I think about Omar, well, not Omar, but what was his name? Marlo from The Wire.
Yeah. Jamie Hector, shout out to Jamie Hector.
Shout out, Jamie. Shout out. Get at us.
Yeah.
But there was a scene where he was locked up and he was talking to the cats, and then he was talking about how Omar was speaking out of term about him, and he wanted him greased, and he's like, "You sure you want to do that?" He's like, "My name is my name." That was his concept of keeping it real, to the point where his life and his respect on the streets, that was his real. You know, everybody has a different concept of real. You know, it's money. Some people's reality, how much money you holding down, how much money you got. Big bank take little bank. That's real to them.
Yeah, but see, that be when rap lyrics and hip hop
That's what I'm
get it all twisted.
right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I love Ice Cube. One of the best diss songs ever. No Vaseline. Now let's play Big Bank, Take a Little Bank.
Right.
That shit's real clever. But that don't play no role in it.
True.
Anybody know who been around the block? Some of the most people not to be fucked with are some of the brokest people in the world.
Absolutely.
There's always a guy on the block. He don't keep no money. He ain't got no fancy cars.
Right.
He ain't got no jewels. But everybody know that if push come to shove,
They gonna get the job done.
He gonna make it happen.
They gonna get the job done.
Flip side, everybody know who been around the block. Some niggas is riding as good as they drive as they make them. Got all the jewels in the world.
Yep.
Keep a big bankroll full of money, and it's soft as snow in the winter, in the summertime.
You already know.
Ain't gonna bust a grape.
Ain't gonna bust a grape.
Just that ain't who they is. And let me be clear on this. Ain't nothing wrong with that either. Civilians, or you're a clever guy. You have. Me and Cavardo was kicking it last year whenever we was at Al. If you know how to navigate the streets without all that guerrilla shit, that just make you smart. I've shared with you like this fascination of our youth with guns and the showing the guns, and when they show themselves with guns and things on social media, and again, so this is all kind of getting back again. I don't know T.I.'s son's situation, so I'm not trying to put all of this burden and conversation on him.
Right.
It was just a topic that led us to do some conversation
that needed to be talked about.
Okay. Now, people who know really how the game work and been around seasoned people, 95% of the time Pops was out doing his thing, he never had a gun with him. Because a couple things you have to ask yourself. A, if I'm doing business, I'm talking about narcotics trafficking business.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing business with somebody that I need to have a gun with me when I do the deal, it's not gonna happen, honey. It's just not gonna happen. You need to ask yourself, who am I doing business with? The gun was not to do business. The gun, to quote Biggie Small, what you think all the guns are for? That's if you come over here trying to take our shit or hurt us. Let it be known that there is a arsenal at our disposal that we could defend ourselves with.
That's right.
Keyword, defend ourselves.
Protection.
We wasn't trying to hurt nobody or intimidate nobody. We was trying to get bread, but it does help in that lifestyle when people know for real, that if it goes all sideways and goes south, that this particular group of gentlemen do have the means and access to defend themselves and their interest.
Mm-hmm. Move the crowd.
That if we want to go there, then but nobody want to go there.
Who wants to go there?
But somehow, our youth being with firearms makes them real.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a clown show, because all the real niggas, I've been around killers and people who do extreme things when they are pushed to all of my life.
Yeah.
Those are not the people who you will ever see on social media with firearms.
Yeah, exactly.
The people who really bout that, and I don't blame the youth, because they youth. They don't know.
They don't know.
Somehow it all got broke down. I want you guys' feedback on this, because these are some deep issues that we kind of talking about.
What is your concept of keeping it real?
And what is a real nigga?
What is a real nigga?
Because I've been told I'm one, but I've also been told I ain't one.
which makes it really a complex question.
Yeah, but I mean, again, and I was fortunate to come from a different era, a different time, different situation. So
exactly,
we didn't. And if your daddy Courtney Brown in this town, I didn't have to do a lot of explaining.
You didn't have to, right?
I didn't have to do a lot of explaining.
Exactly.
It was, nobody had to tell, the people knew.
Mm-hmm.
And people knew, my cousins knew, our family knew our story. I mean, we come up where we come up. We come out the mud with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And being a second generation in that life, seeing how that lifestyle went from only for a few to everybody trying to emulate it. And that always kind of confused me, because I was like, well, I understand wanting to emulate the nice cars, the big houses, the travel, the money, the broads, the respect. But you also want to emulate the going to jail, the FBI, the DEA, stick up man, all that really come with it.
Right.
I have twice been at the wrong end of a gun. 2 times in my life, I've had a pistol to my head, right? That shit is not a particularly enjoyable activity or something that you want done. I was living that life. God is good, because I'm still here talking to y'all, right?
Yeah.
But it ain't nothing cool when that thing is to the side of your temple.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, they need to talk more. A rapper, I challenge all you young rappers, come up with some bars about the reality of not letting loose or popping off or airing it out. But when you on the other side of that tool, because, see, it's 2 sides to every story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 2 sides. It ain't, it ain't fly or cool.
Big time.
So yeah, it's a lot to it, man. It's a lot to all of this stuff, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about later in the show. Maybe when this mindset, because we say all this, man, because I think it's a responsibility of us OGs to try to get to the root nature. Because we was talking earlier about, jokingly but unjokingly, we're in search of an unhappy Negro.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna tell the one group that I know that often ends up unhappy in our community, and that is mothers burying their sons.
Mothers.
Right?
Yes, big time.
If I want to answer my own question, you know, every day in America, there are some unhappy African American women, and in particular, and not all lives matter, but there's some particular situations with the murder rate in our community. The fact that the most likely way for African American male, I believe under the age of 30 to die, it's not from COVID, it's not from AIDS, it's not from cancer, it is from an act of violence from another African American male of a similar age, right? And now mama got to get a black dress and the family got to go past the hat because they spent all the money at the club or something of that nature to bury the young man. And so we who've been around and what elders or older guys, OGs, whatever they would like to call us, right. I mean, to say, why are we doing this? And I know these are good kids. I know a lot of these knucklehead kids, or I come across them. These are good kids at heart.
Yeah.
It's not bad people. They're not the monsters. Some of these, now there's a certain segment they got some real issues. Now don't get it twisted. We got some sickness in our community. We got some people in the house that something very, very bad has happened.
Yeah, ain't well.
They're not well.
Yeah, big time.
And take a little bit too much joy in inflicting pain. But that's not the average young African American male in any way.
Right.
A lot of these kids getting caught up because of a mindset. When you young, and I understand, I'm a middle-aged businessman. I'm not affected by peer pressure. I could give a damn what somebody think I got, don't got, if they think I'm real, if they think I'm soft, if they think I'm hard. I ain't living my life because of what, to please strangers, right?
Yeah.
My friends and family who know me.
That's right.
Right? And their opinion of me is what counts. But I also been a teenager before. Mm-hmm. I get, when you 17, 18, peer pressure is a real thing.
It's a very real thing.
Trying to impress them young girls and not being seen as a lame or a square is a real thing. Even though the lames and squares are the people who end up running the world. Yeah. That, you know.
And you got arrested development. A lot of them wind up in their 30s in the same kind of pot. Still trying to prove, you know, their realness.
And so, do we have a car? Oh, we do. All right. So, this is the latest release from our company, right? This is Big Man on Campus, wrote by yours truly, produced by his truly. And it's a fictional account of my days when I was in college and started working for my old man, right? We changed some names and locations because we had to protect the guilty and the innocent. Big Man on Campus, available at Amazon, on Kindle, and at bigbossfilmworks.com. But this era that I'm talking about in my life, right? I think I saw a lot of this start to happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm up at college with a lot of African American young men also. We up at Western Michigan in Kalamazoo. We college Negroes now, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of these kids, though, had come from, you know, the inner city, but they were far from poor. They were wearing nice clothes. A lot of times their parents had bought them cars. Parents had good factory jobs or good city jobs, or might have been hustling. A little bit of all of the above. You know the story of our people, right? And they decided that they wanted to get into selling drugs. And we're going to talk later in the show, and a lot of this has to do, this is 83 when I'm in college, 83 through say 87. So right in 1983, if you were in Detroit, the effects of YBI and Young Boys Incorporated and what that meant to being a young black man. But people were not somehow during that era being content that mama and daddy done worked hard. They didn't put the family in position to where we can live good. That wasn't somehow good enough. Or, you know, when I was in high school, if you had a car, you was the man.
Yeah.
Now you talking about vets and Benzes and all of that. If you had 4 wheels that moved,
right.
you was kind of up there on the food chain.
Right, upper echelon.
You was upper echelon.
Right.
I mean, like, you didn't have to ask to use your mama's car to go on a date. You actually had keys to your own whip. You had it. You were privileged, right?
You had it.
And right in that era there, it started to change, where all of a sudden a young guy working a regular job, save up his money in the summer by himself. Back in them days, you know, $2,000, $2,500 whip. You know, I know that sounds like little money, but it's back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. But then when we saw what our friends and family, my friends and family were doing on the block, and all of a sudden you had 16, 18-year-old guys driving Benzes and Vets, it all got kind of twisted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, best of luck to King Harris, whatever he's going on in there. And I'm going to throw this out to the young homie. And again, I don't know what he is even accused of doing. I just know that it hit the media that he had been arrested and detained for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Your father has paid the price for you to live a privileged life. Go ahead. And I go for all you brothers or sisters whose parents, that being hard, that street shit, lived a nice, soft life.
That's right.
That is the point of coming out the mud, is not to have to be in those violent, hypersensitive jungle environments. Yeah, it is good to know how to survive in the jungle. I thank God I got taught how to survive in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
But I never liked being in the jungle.
Right.
Sometimes the food was in the jungle and I was greedy. So I kept going back to the jungle because I found a way to eat good in the jungle. But I never thought the jungle, you know, anybody who know me would know, no.
Yeah.
After we had got the food out the jungle, I'm going back to the village. Because they got nice girls there.
Right.
Nice girls and no Negroes with guns.
Right.
And I like that better.
It gets no realer than that.
That's real. I ain't never, you know, and we could talk forever, we'll talk more about it. But yeah, somehow that jungle mentality, wanting to live in the jungle, even though your parents or family have put you in a position to live a privileged life, but somehow that ain't keeping it real.
Right.
If I enjoy the fruits of my parents' labor, you know, like Henry Ford Jr. thought he had to go back to the trailer park because he wasn't keeping it real. You know, white folks don't think like that. White folks don't be like, I'm going back to the trailer park because I want to keep it real. No. No, they don't think like that. So again, that's some food for thought, man. Some food for thought around there. So let's take a short little break here, and another shout out to our newest sponsor. We'll have some of his apparel and gear in here to show off, and some more ways for you guys to keep finding him, get his Instagram locations. But that's Vinyl's Apparel. Shout out to Vinyl's Apparel, located at 3246 West Davidson, Suite A, right next to another umbrella.
Blazing Hookah.
Right next to Blazing Hookah. Shout out to them. Shout out to the homies. Make sure, I'm trying to tell you, if you're in the D and you're trying to get some gear, holiday season about to come up. Change of seasons about to get a little crispy outside.
Yeah,
Holla at Vinyl. Tell them you heard about them at Motown Mafia platform. Him and Kayla and Bow Wow, the rest of the crew over there, they're going to show you some love. They're going to get you right. They're going to get you right. All right, so let's take a little break. Let's do a little Hollywood check it out. And we'll be right back at you at Motown Mafia Podcast.
(1973). The Detroit Free Press's front page proclaims, "Dope kingpins get away with it." They had names like Jesse James, Pretty Ricky, the Black Greek, and Mr. Clean. 2 of the 12 men listed as Detroit's biggest heroin dealers were next-door neighbors, and in reality, they were the 2 largest heroin dealers in Detroit, dwarfing the other men on the list. Eddie the Fat Man Jackson charismatic son of a pool hall owner, and his chief lieutenant, Courtney the Field Marshal Brown, a former city bus driver, had built an empire on a par with men like Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas of New York. But theirs was a very different and in many ways more sophisticated operation than Barnes and Lucas's, based on family ties and finesse more than murder and mayhem. They truly were the Motown Mafia, and the saga of Eddie Jackson, Courtney Brown, and their families stretched from the 1960s and into the present day.